So everyone, welcome to, oh my gosh, week 7 of Hug It Out. If you are new, wow, it's been a long day already. It's been a long 7 weeks, perhaps. If you are new to Hug It Out, it is an online place for us to restore and connect during COVID-19. Really, I thought we'd be almost complete at this point, and there's no complete looking near, which is kind of cool because we have met some of the most incredible people over the past few weeks. Tonight is no different. Tonight we have Anna Scofield with us, and she is trained in Chinese acupuncture and medicine. But what I love about her, and we only met a couple of months ago, and I think I could have spent the next many hours talking with her, but it was about energy work. She went to psychic grad school, which kind of makes me sweaty. Like, that is so exciting. Going to psychic grad school, you're like, ooh, can I test my intuition out? And then someone says yes, you've got it, or no, and you practice that. It blows my mind. Like, I hope I live a long life so I can do what you did, Anna. So welcome. Thank you for coming tonight.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Jindy. That is such a great introduction. It was like, I went to psychic school while
maybe it's like the wrong thing to say, but
right. No,
yeah.
It's so beautiful and wonderful, and I love it. It's so much, when I was even doing it, it's there's still that taboo that's attached to it, that it's like, oh, well, that's an interesting thing, interesting course of study, right? So I actually called it meditation school while I was doing the work. And so did some of my colleagues, because it was like, hey, and we were living in Boulder, Colorado. We were living in a very progressive place, very open-minded. And it still was like a little off people's radar, where they're out of their comfort zone, right? It's like just fringe enough to be kind of too much for some people. But since then, that was 10 years ago. Now I'm embracing it in a whole new way. And obviously I'm here to talk with you all. And it's really become such a cool part of my own practice and my own life. And I think it's wonderful to share it with you all. So I'm very, very honored to be here today. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, like when we met, you were talking all about acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and then our time was like, oh, and we have to go soon, from our coffee date. And then you just bust out like, yeah, I went to psychic grad school. And I'm like, whoop, wait a second. The conversation just started. Like, you can't end on that note. Are you kidding me?
I know, right?
So,
just throwing that one in there,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But you're right. There is that taboo around it, which is such a bummer for many of us here tonight who are really energetically sensitive,
right?
Really getting intuitive information, really feeling other people's feelings.
Right.
And to be able to study that in a place that everyone speaks this language, I can't even imagine how delicious that is.
It's really powerful, actually. It gave me tools that I wished I'd had in childhood, right? Because It's like, wow, if I would have been able to recognize and process and think about these gifts that you're given, right? Which actually we all innately have. Big spoiler alert there. But we all innately have this capability,
sticker.
Right?
You have it too.
You've got it too. It's like, I wish that I would have had those tools as a young person, because I think it does help you process and to recognize and distinguish what is yours and what might not be, right? And that is really the gift, because one of the main things that you do, and I would love to take you all on the journey of what we call kind of energy awareness 101. It's like, we call it Auric Hygiene. right? So it's about recognizing what is your stuff, your process to go through in your own energy body and your physical body, and what is probably not. What is like what's coming in from the external world, right? It's maybe, and it can feel heavy. It can feel like yours. That's the tricky part, right? It can feel like it belongs to you when it doesn't. And so we're going to go through that a little bit, and I'd love to go through that process with you all. There are 3 main types, I guess if you can call them that, of psychic capabilities, right? There's the clairvoyance, which everybody is when they think of psychic or they think of energy work in that way, they think of clairvoyance because it's the kind of like most popular, most commonly referred to. But clairvoyance is our ability to see the energy, right? To see things that might be traveling around with someone. Sometimes, I can be in the grocery store actually, and if I've got my self set to that place, because that is another part of the Auric Hygiene, is that you can decide when you turn it on and when you turn it off, and that is a really key part of it. But sometimes I can be in the grocery store and I'd be like, wow, they have an entity that's with them, right? And that is their process to work through, but sometimes it just shows up, right? Yeah, so that's clairvoyance. And then we have what
there are like 5 things I want to break down in just what you said.
Okay.
But I will I think what I'll do is take some notes on maybe things to follow up on.
Sure.
So I don't interrupt your 3 things.
3 things, right? So the clairvoyance, clairsentience, which is that's when we feel it, right? You may feel subtle temperature changes. You may feel tingling sensations. You may feel constriction. You may feel, you can just feel heaviness sometimes. Or you can feel elation, like I really filled myself up with my energy body today, and because in purpose of trying to bring us all up, because the higher vibration, it just feels good, right? But the clairsentience is what a lot of us as empaths often really want to work with, because that is where we can feel things, a little too deeply, or it's not even too deeply. It's like, again, distinguishing what's yours and what's not. And then finally, there is clairaudience. And clairaudience is when you might receive, they call it subtle, there's like a way to refer to it. Clairaudience is basically hearing things that are inaudible, right? So there are, you probably heard of people that can hear the sound of the earth. You've heard of this?
I hear people like hearing the earth or hearing plants talk.
Right,
right.
So it's that
or even
level
spirits, hearing spirits.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we kind of dabbled just a minute ago when we were before the call, we were talking about cultivating relationships with spirit guides, and that is where the clairaudience really comes in, where it's like you get messaging, and it's about distinguishing again when it's relevant, when it can be heard, when it can be helpful or constructive for a person, rather than coming across as a judgment, right? Because a person has to be in a certain state to be able to receive it. And that is our work, actually, as all fellow healers, as all empaths, is to decide when, we get that kind of information, we get that hit, that intuition about when someone can really receive some information. And that's helpful. That's when we actually are the most of assistance, I think. Any questions about that part before we move in? Like, from anyone, actually?
I just want to say that the floor is totally open. So if you did come with your questions or wonderings, or like, hey, this thing happened and I would love to talk with someone who gets me, or, try it on.
Right. Yeah.
to quickly unmute yourself, you could press the space bar, and I believe that works just fine. But open floor.
I just am really curious.
Yes.
I personally, I think that I have strength in one area, and then one is moderate, but one is very weak. Is there a way? The one that's weak is the one I want to be able to do the most. Isn't that terrible? So is there a way, and not that you have to say how now, but is there a way to develop that? Or is it kind of like you in nature versus nurture, I guess is what I'm saying. Do you just have a tendency towards it, or are these things you can develop? That's my question.
The answer is both, right? We all are actually capable of any of those. And we do have more propensity for certain ones than others. And that is really just like we have different body shapes, you know, it's just like this is my way of receiving this information, and learning to translate it is into the information that can be helpful or constructive or healing for someone is the work, really. That's the practice, right? It's like that's where we get to, yeah, that's where the practice comes in, you know. And that really is just time, you know. Yeah. Great question, though. Great question. Yeah. I'm curious to see which one is your less strong one that you're so
Yeah, I'm
keen
curious
on.
too if you want to share, Kimberly. You don't have to, obviously.
You don't have to. Oh, yeah, please. No, yeah.
I'm comfortable. So Claire Sensius, is that
Sentient.
is my go, you know, it's just a go-to. But in work with clients, I can hear things when working on a body, or even listening to a client. I will have things come at me with words or tones or vibrations or something, and I will interpret, but I'm cautious to interpret. And you know, it's a mind, because I guess I don't have as much confidence. I want to be careful interpreting because it's not mine, but it's coming through me, right? Mm-hmm. So I continually say I don't have to be right. This is just what I'm noticing. And the one that I really, really want is I want to see it. And when I'm working on clients, I can see shading, but there are people who say they can see the color, or they can see, like you said, they're carrying another spirit body with them. Mm-hmm. I just think that would qualify me as having any talent. There's my own, you can get my own hiccup and all that, but
I love it. I love it.
Fun. So thank you.
Totally. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, again, that can be cultivated with practice. I mean, really, you already obviously have the gifts. What you're receiving is supposed to be coming through, right? It's like because it is otherworldly. It is, we are all eternal bodies. We are just physically here for a certain time, and meaning eternal beings. And so in that, of course, we can kind of connect with the other side, rather, right? So yeah, so just cultivate it, work with it, practice with people where it feels safe, right? So maybe if it's, I will say that intimate, like close nuclear family members, tough to work with. We are very rarely energetically clean there, right? There's always a little cord, a little whack, a little, you know, fine tuning to be done there. And so it can be really tricky to work with that, but work with a close friend, you know, like work with someone who will take what you say as this little gem that it is, but with a grain of salt, right? So that it won't personally injure them in some way, you know, but it won't take it in a way that isn't meant to, right? And that's a really great way I worked with that a lot, actually, when I first started practicing this, because I was like, hey, I'm getting all this information and it can be hard to know how to deal with it. And it should come through when it is appropriate, right? So sometimes I can feel a little too blown open, right? If I am walking around in the grocery store and I'm getting hits on things like, oh, time to rein it in a little bit, you know? And that's part of the aura hygiene, where it's like we can consciously choose to kind of, excuse me, pull ourselves back in a little bit, right? A practice, a place where I always do this is actually when I'm traveling. Like if I'm going to the airport and going through a TSA line, I really pull myself energetically in rather than fill myself up, because it's like there's a lot of energy being transferred there, and really public busy spaces and big crowds. We can be a little more like energetically vulnerable. Like we already are feeling the energy of a room, right? We're already feeling that often. And then it can be like a little too much if we don't kind of consolidate ourselves a little bit, kind of like protect ourselves a bit. And one of the key tools I like for that is what I call a protection rose. And we'll talk about that in the aura hygiene practice as well. Any other questions before we move along? Everybody cool?
Just
Cool.
quickly,
Yes.
what school did you go to? Just curious.
Boulder Psychic Institute.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. BPI. They have some really cool information online. They have a great Instagram. Like they it's what I love about just the fact that this is becoming, that we're all sitting here together talking about this, is that we're breaking down that taboo. It's like, hey, maybe this doesn't serve us anymore. And this can be something we can transcend and move beyond, because it's here, it's real for us. And why not work with it in a relevant way? Yeah.
One thing I want to add to our list of things to talk about. So I'm a Hakomi therapist, and so I work in a lot of times the realms where our little ones, like young things that have happened when we were younger, something traumatic that happened to us, and our energy is left behind. And now I'm really I feel where these energies are. I feel, we call them exiles, these young ones are left behind. And so like, I get it from that realm. Like I've done my own, let's go get them and bring them back into our energetic bodies. But it also makes me wonder about, where do we leave our energy elsewhere? Like, where is it? And then how do we ensure that we're collecting it back? Or how do we know when it's even split? So many questions. Okay.
So many questions. I hope that I get to remind me of them all. Yeah. So, yes, absolutely. So when there is a trauma, right, there is an event, it can be emotional, physical, any capacity. It does what we call it either attaches a cord or a whack, right? And these are like just the way we refer to them in the psychic world. But cords are really energetic attachments with other people that are like these little small sieves, these little leakages of energy. Now there are cords that are supposed to be there, right? So as parents and as children ourselves, because everyone is born from somewhere, we do have energetic cords with our parents, primarily our mother, that heal over time. But that is supposed to be there. We're supposed to be really, really energetically connected with our mother for about 7 years. And then at age 7, it should start to gradually evolve, take shape, where it's like it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner, and eventually falls away, because we do reclaim that little bit of our own energetic sphere eventually, right? Because it's there for a purpose.
Yeah. It's the energetic umbilical cord.
Exactly.
Essentially, that heals, right. And we suck in our side, and then the mom sucks in her side, and then you're separate beings.
Right. You're separate beings. Right. Yeah. It gets a little fuzzy there.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so, and having a child of my own, I feel it really, really strongly with him. Like I can, that sense that you can tell what your kid is doing when you cannot see him, you may not even be in the same city as them, right? You're like, oh, something's up, right? That spidey sense, Yeah. And that is the energetic cord. And it's really, really strong when they're newborn. And then it does kind of like gradually fall away in a healthy way. And like in a like healthy energetic exchange, it just kind of dissolves, right? It's just if it doesn't, then it's like the energetic leak, right? Where it's like, oh, I never fully detached from my mother, or I never fully detached from this incident. So the other thing is like, if there is a trauma and it involves another human being, there can often be kind of a leak there, right? And that's the cord. That's the cord, where it's like, the way we can distinguish those is when we think about an event or a trauma, consciously or subconsciously, and it's on like the broken record cycle, right? So it's always replaying.
Yes.
And that totally. It's like an event, like, oh, in this moment, I heard that I was unlovable, right?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, I'm unlovable, right? And it's a direct attachment to that person.
The trauma
That happened. Exactly. Right.
And what I love about what you're saying is, I'm all about, let's heal this. And our traditional idea is like, don't think about it. Like create this like mind muscle to think something different versus I'm unlovable versus like we can heal that and then scoop all that yummy stuff back into ourselves.
Right. Fill back in with ourselves.
Yes. Fill back in with ourselves and just like scoop it back into where the original place was. But it is so interesting to talk this way. And they're like, what no, I'm just going to like muscle my ass off and just block this thought.
Right.
So, like,
just rewrite the story.
Yeah. So can I ask, like, energetically, and I don't mean to take over this conversation, but I have a lot of questions here. So let's just say that we do create, a muscle to kind of stop those thoughts. Energetically, what is happening there?
That's a really interesting thing. I'm not sure that I've really... The cord is still there, right? If you were to get a reading and somebody with absolute complete objectivity, like no attachment to your story whatsoever, would probably be able to sense it or see it or feel it for you, right? So the leakage is still there.
It's still there.
So you
and
can
there's like another
rewrite
layer.
Right. You're rewriting it with whatever story you need to write to like get through your life, basically, to heal in whatever capacity you're able. But really your greatest power is to take that power back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's really like ownership of, hey, you know what? I am love. I am fully capable of love, and I deserve love in every capacity, right? And just fill in with that rather than that story that's been pounded into us, Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is wax. Okay. So we have the cords. That can be like, and often the cords are with people that are present in our life in a big way, right? They're a big presence in our life, be it a family member, or be it, a friend, somebody that we have a relationship, we have a karmic kind of soul agreement there. Wax are when stuff happens and it basically like comes in and just blindsides us, right? It just like all of a sudden, and that's kind of what I think of as the fear mongering that happens in the media right now. I think it's like this energetic whack of where it's just like constantly bombarding us. Go back to fear. And I'm not dismissive or saying that there isn't an intense amount of grief and suffering in the world right now. what I am saying is that the fear mechanism, that whack of the media, of external forces, is working to disempower people, to like control them in a way that is keeping them small, right? Keeping them from like living from love, living from light, and living from gratitude, living in your full capability of being. And I hope I didn't get too dark there, but it's
No, not at all. I'm just curious where. So the word is whack.
whack, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I don't even know how would I think of it as WHACK, but you know,
Cool.
it's kind of like yeah.
And the whack is an intention of something or someone that interferes.
Right.
Is that what I'm getting?
That's exactly right.
It's a block.
It's a block.
Mm-hmm.
It like kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like this event that can, or messaging, or, you know, it can come in the form of almost anything, really. You know, sometimes people that are really close to us intimately, like our nuclear family, like the way a family member can say something and they just hurl it at you like a softball, right? And it just like, and it just all of a sudden you are just leaking energy right there. It's like you just are really disempowered, right? It's just a big time weakness there. You know, it's like, but the good news is that you can take the power back, right? It's like you become aware of it. You notice what you're noticing. Hey, I'm replaying that moment in my mind. They've long forgotten it, right? But I am like leaking this energy here. And then you just fill back up. You no longer don't need to repeat that story anymore, right? That's over. That's not in this present moment. And I was really loving what Donna was talking about last week, because it is so much about living in presence, right? Living in this be here now reality versus, again, replaying those broken record, the story, the old patterning, the old stories.
So if someone, let's say someone throws a whack ball, I don't even know how to talk this language. Yeah. Let's just say they do that.
Yeah.
Do they get the energy from me? Is that their intention? Or is it, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. What's the intention behind that?
You know, sometimes it's, of course, my thinking is that it's actually for our highest good. When these things happen, it's an area where we can firm that up, where we can seal in, right? Seal up the leaks. And what's the best way to say that? It's like, it's a karmic agreement often, you know, that those things are like little lessons that we had to go through to have a new awareness, have a new depth of understanding of whatever it is, right? So that we don't go into that victim place, because what happens is we can go to victim, right? And when we're in victim, we're living from a very sleepy consciousness, right? We're living from a different level. And these things are all there for our better good, our highest good. So
that's helpful.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, it is cool. Any other questions before I want to take you all through the pieces of it. I'm going to break it down. What I thought would be most helpful would be to break it down into the kind of 5 parts of it. And then I'll take us through the practice. That's cool with everyone. Yeah. So first and foremost, this is like what we do to have energy integrity, right? Our auric hygiene, as we like to say. Because when we have auric integrity, we are not leaking, right? We are fully in our power. We are fully in ourselves, and we are working from our highest self, really. So the first part of it, and I'm gonna have a little sip of tea, because the first bit of it, the kind of one of the key parts of it, is what we call the grounding cord. And basically the grounding cord comes from the level of your first and second chakra. So like right at your perineum, and then like right about 2 inches, 3 inches above. And from that area, like your hip girdle, we imagine whatever, and this can be an image that works. It's something that you practice and you work with and you cultivate, and it can be different, it can change. But the image I usually like is a rope that is the width of my hips with a giant heavy anchor at the bottom of it. And that anchor just drops from that space all the way down to the center of the earth. And from that place, it allows whatever isn't mine, whatever isn't serving, to just be recycled, right? Energetically. And again, one of my teachers said, you don't go through your garbage when you take it to the curb, you just take the garbage to the curb, right? And that's it. You just take the garbage to the curb, right? You don't have to like dissect it or think about where it came from. You just take the garbage to the curb. So you let that, so attach the grounding cord and let that flow. Let that energy cycle for a few minutes with your breath. And then you become aware of the auric bubble. And your aura is your energy body. As you guys probably all know, that we are not our physical form. We are actually much larger in our energetic body than we are in our physical form. And that aura body, that energetic body, expands about the width of both hands in every single direction, like a giant sphere, like a giant bubble, like a giant egg, right? And it's above, below, behind, to the sides, the complete sphere. And you just check in with that space, right? And then you tuck in, as if your aura was a t-shirt, you tuck it in to your grounding cord about 2 feet below your feet. Okay? For this practice, for the sake of this practice, we always put feet on the ground rather than crisscross, because energy channels get a little wonky actually when we do things crisscross-legged. So we like to be firmly planted in our seat with our feet on the floor. So once you check in with the auric bubble, you can do a little scan, right? You just kind of like become aware of the entire of the presence. And I will tell you that often in Western cultures especially, we wear our energy forward. Probably if any of you have been in a yoga class, we talk about how we pitch forward, right? We're always moving into the future. We're always like, what's next? What's on the agenda, right? It's kind of like how we culturally wear ourselves. But really, to be in our integrity, we wear it in this present moment, right? We are right in the center of our aura. So that usually means we adjust our aura bubble around us to be more kind of equilateral around us. The other part of that, the next part, is the microcosmic orbit. So you guys probably are familiar with the microcosm, macrocosm terminology, but I'll just go through it a little bit. But we are a microcosm rather, of what is infinitely available, right? We are part of the macrocosm, and we are just a tiny like reflection of that. So the way that we run the microcosmic energy is we imagine energy coming in from the crown. It passes through a double line through the back of your head, branching in back through the back of your neck, 2 lines going down the back of your neck, and then it branches into 4, going down on either side of the length of your spine, right? And you're just imagining that cosmic energy, and that can be whatever color is what represents the cosmos to you. It can be gold, it can be pink, it can be whatever color you associate with cosmic energy. And you allow that color energy to come in from that space and run down through the course of those channels. Then that comes through your first chakra, right? So if it's, let's just say it's gold, it's coming in from the first chakra, and then it starts to connect with the earth energy. And the earth energy, I usually run it as a green color because it just really resonates with me. But it comes up from the bottoms of your feet, up through your ankles, through your knees, through your thighs, and runs down through your first chakra and then down the grounding cord. Okay, so that's the earth channel. And then we have the cosmic channel. And from the cosmic channel, when it passes through, when they kind of like pass like two little opposing bits through your first chakra, the cosmic energy kind of scoops up some of the earth energy, and it runs up in double line on either side of your navel, up through the kind of xiphoid, and then up through into your collarbones, where it branches off into two lines out through arms into palms, both sides. And then the main branch continues on up through either side of your neck, through the face, through the eyes, and out the crown chakra. So, right? So when we're working at, like, I think of it like this kind of energy like this, right? And when we're really tapped into that, oh, man, does it feel good. And it's such a powerful practice to do if you're a massage therapist, if you're someone that works on people. Such an amazing practice because you get so much energy in your hands. It's like turning on the fire hose a little bit. It's really cool. So the microcosmic orbit. The next bit is the golden sun. And the golden sun, we imagine, and I can just like put mine on right here and you guys can kind of probably see it. But it is really actually our 8th chakra, which people don't talk about quite as much, but it's the bit of us that is really just cosmic energy. And in this golden sun is, coming back to your question, Jendi, where we call back ourselves, right? So in the golden sun, while you're in your meditation, while you're doing this process, you just say, I call back myself. And you can just say your name, telepathically, mentally. And it comes back from any places that you may have dropped it along the way, through the course of a day, through the course of a lifetime. It comes back because energy is transmutable instantaneously. It doesn't have time-space continuum rules. In the golden sun, we also fill up with the energies that we want to cultivate. I love to put lots of amusement into my golden sun because the world is a funny place. And when we can look at it with eyes that say, how about that, right? It's like we are doing well for ourselves. So I like to fill up with amusement. I like to fill up with joy. I like to fill up with gratitude, whatever kind of feels relevant in the day. And that changes daily when you do that practice. After we fill up the golden sun complete, it just fills like a golden balloon above us. Then we just imagine that it pop and fills in through our crown into every bit of our being, right? Every bit of our physical body. It just fills in. You could just like cascade it down like a waterfall. And then once it fills, you pay attention to every single bit of yourself. You can go all the way through your fingertips, all the way through your toes. And then once that's complete, because cosmic energy is infinite, then you fill in with that same golden sun into the entirety of your auric space, into your aura bubble. Oh, so good. We're going to go through the whole thing in just a few minutes. I'm just taking you through the bits of it first. Last thing, really one of the most integral parts of this for us as empaths, as sensitive people, is the protection rose. And the protection rose we place outside of our energy body. So the way I usually visualize this is like a rose that's like bigger than my head, like it's large, right? And the rose can be a tight bud, it can be fully blossomed, it can be like whatever that looks like for you. And it can be any color. if I'm working with something where I am like, hey, you know, I really kind of leaked some energy here, I often will set it to like a gray or a dull color. And then I just call back my energy from the interaction that didn't go quite as smoothly as I would have loved, or something along those lines. And basically it goes into the rose, which is an extension of your aura. And it just fills in and then pops, right? Just goes away. And then that is a way, like, you can kind of like, it's like a Band-Aid for, for when you skinned your knee a little bit energetically. Like maybe you didn't act as skillfully, or you said the wrong thing. That can be like a nice way to be like, I'm just going to call back that energy. And it's healing for both you and the other person, actually. The protection rose is also really important for us as empaths, is when we are going to interact with people that trigger us. Because the triggering is often like, you know, a karmic agreement that is it's playing itself out. We're working it out, and it's part of our contract. But it can be a nice kind of like buffer where everybody is owning their own energy, and it's not this kind of like tick for tat that's like too much muddiness, right? It gets, when the waters get murky, when we energetically are acting with another, then it can be a little foggy, a little hazy there. You know, what's mine, what's theirs. The protection rose is really, really, really nice for that. The other way you can use a protection rose is if you are calling someone that's triggering. It's one of the practices that I use, is if I'm calling someone that I love and want to have in my life, but they tend to trigger me, or they tend to kind of bring my own energy down, I can just pop a little protection rose into my ear, and then it's a nice little energy buffer. And you can really like be there for that person. You can hear what they're going through, what they're suffering with where they are in their experience, without going there with them, right? And that can be such a powerful tool, because when we get bogged down ourselves, we're actually doing ourselves a huge disservice, because that stuff becomes too heavy to carry. If you're not like letting it all go at some point, it becomes it's too much. It's too much. Yeah. Any questions before we actually do the practice? Anybody? I'm looking at all of your beautiful faces.
Good question.
Sure.
So, what's your ritual with this? Is it something you do every day? Is it, kind of how do you use these in your daily life, besides
Right.
just what you said about the rose?
Right. So the way, when I'm in my integrity, I practice this in the morning. In the morning, it sets the tone for the day, right? It's like any meditation practice, any mindfulness practice, where it's like, this sets my vibration for the course of the day. And any place I might have, the other place I can use it sometimes, if I am not able to practice in the day, in the mornings, is to do it at night before bedtime. Because then you take back all the places you may have leaked a bit. You may be kind of leaking a little bit in whatever capacity. You can let go of interactions that didn't go as smoothly. You can just kind of let go of the day. And then you can move into this like recycled, or kind of like regenerative energy for going to sleep. And that's a whole nother can of worms that we won't probably get time to get into. But yeah, that's how I practice it. Yeah. Well, we'll just go to
yes, I'm appreciating a couple of things, but the grace in this practice is so delicious. There's so much grace for other people and for ourselves. Like, I don't like how I did that. And it's like, pop on a rose.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, how lovely is that? You know, like, oh, now I've got to do all this stuff to.
I have to process it in all these really complicated ways. Oh, what if I just let it go?
And I love the clarity. I like the energetic clarity too of this practice of just staying really clean. Feels really good.
My teacher, actually, one of my main teachers at this Psychic Institute, she was like, if everyone on the planet practiced aura hygiene, there would be no war, there would be no suffering, there would be no, the list goes on and on and on, right? It's like, if we could all just be in our integrity and realize how we are in the world, then the world would be a much brighter place in lots of capacities. But I do actually think the world is a really beautiful place. I mean, did anyone on Bainbridge Island see the Dumble rainbow that happened about 15 minutes before we got on this call? I was like, well, that is a good omen. It was pretty magical. Anyway, okay, we'll go to our practice, if that's cool with everyone. So just finding a comfortable place. It's best if you can place your feet on the ground. Get comfortable, gently close your eyes. Just following your breath for a moment. And it isn't something that you need to control the breath or lengthen the breath or change it in any way. It's just observe it. Awesome. So now I want to invite you to form a grounding cord. And like we said, it needs to be about the width of your hips. And it needs to connect with the center of the earth. And what it looks like in between is up to you. It can be a rainbow, a waterfall, an anchor. And down this grounding cord, I want you to place any energy that is no longer serving. Any energy that wasn't yours. Just let it go. Mama Earth knows what to do with it. Cool. Now I want you to become aware of your aura, of your bubble, your energetic space. A couple of feet above your head, in front of your face, down the front of your body, beside you, behind you. Make sure you're seated nice and central in that auric bubble. And then about a foot below your feet, a foot or two below your feet, I want you to tuck in your aura bubble to your grounding cord, like a t-shirt, like a shirt. Tuck it in all the way around. And any energy that wasn't yours or no longer serves within your space, just let that go down the grounding cord. And now I'm going to ask you to put on your earth circuit. So from the earth, from the point of contact that your feet are touching, pick a color, any color, that represents earth to you. And allow that color energy to flow in from the balls of your feet, up through your ankles, up through your calves, up through your knees, through your thighs, entering at your first chakra, at a place about 2 or 3 inches below your navel, and then flowing down the grounding cord. Just feel that. It usually feels pretty good to just let that run for a few minutes. And now I want you to pick a cosmic color. What represents cosmos to you? Is it gold? Is it pink? Is it magenta? And allow that to come in from the top of your head through the crown, passing in bilateral hair channels down the back of your head, through your neck, branching off into 4, so 2 on either side of your spine, all the way down to your sacrum. And from the sacrum, I want you to scoop up just a little bit of that earth energy into the cosmic energy. Usually about like 80-20 is pretty good. So like 20% of that earth energy. Keep the 80 running. And allow that new mix of color to pass up through your first chakra, up through either side of your navel, up through your abdomen, up through the xiphoid, up through the channels on the chest. At the collarbone, you get 2 nice little breaks of like rivers, little streams that branch off. And those go down into the centers of your palms, through your arms. Allow those to flow. And from your collarbone, the main channel continues on up through either side of your neck, through your chin, through your face, through the eyes, and up, out like a whale spout in the top of the head. Nice. You all look so good. And now I want you to imagine that there is a giant golden sun about 3 feet above your head. And in this golden sun, you can put anything you'd like to put there. Abundance, gratitude, joy, amusement. Just let that golden sun fill with anything you'd like. And now call back yourself. Just in your mind's eye, say your name. Your golden sun knows what to do. And when that golden sun is nice and full, you just gently pop. Let all of that energy flow through your crown, through your entire being. All the way down over your shoulders, through your arms, through your chest, through your torso, through your legs, through your knees, calves, feet, toes. Allow it to all fill in, and then the spillover, because there is no limit. Allow that to fill in your entire aura bubble until it is just bright and full Now, out in front of you, I want you to put a giant protection rose. And this protection rose is your ally. It is your buffer for any interactions that you've had through the day. And moving into the tomorrow. Set it to whatever color feels good. You guys are beaming really bright. And when you're ready, just gently come back to your physical body. Just wiggle your toes and the little fingers. And then gently blink open your eyes. Nice to see you. Yay! That was beautiful. Thank you all so much. I hope that these tools are helpful. Jindy, will you unmute us so I can talk to everyone? Or can hear everyone, rather? Let's see.
So in dealing with narcissists who tend to be energy vampires, I have like two questions. Number one, initially when you were talking, I was curious, how do you handle your energy when you're around them? Do you get bigger? Do you get smaller? Or somewhere in between? And then I wanted to add something I picked up in your sharing was one of the ways to work with them in the moment is to come back to the moment, like to bring my energy to the moment. Because I have a cord to one in particular. I've worked on cutting cord, but I get whacked, right? So it's like this combination of both.
Totally.
And kind of exhausted my resources in working with this person to reclaim my own power. And I refuse to accept that we still have work. I refuse to accept there's still work there. But how to deal with energy in the face of someone who loves to suck off of you?
That's such an amazing question. So there are many different levels of what you're talking about. So yes, there are people that are not in their integrity and their aura, and they are like hungry for your energy, basically. And that can feel really overwhelming. It can be really easy to want to shrink in, to shrivel into ourselves. But in actuality, that might not be the best choice, because then we are kind of playing, we're contracting in a place that we don't necessarily, that's not ours, right? Work with the protection rose. It's one of the best tools I have in those interactions. Just pop a nice big, and the thing about protection rose, again, they're infinite, right? So what happens is, let's say you're dealing with a person and you can kind of see where my hands are coming in, and the energy is kind of coming in, but the protection rose is there. I'm cool, I'm clean, right? The protection rose fills up, it gets exhausted, and then you just boop, let it go, and there's a brand new one, right? And that can happen as long as that needs to happen. If you feel drained after dealing with someone, it's another good tool. There's probably two things in play where the protection rose wasn't quite sturdy enough, or we weren't quite paying full attention to where it was, right? It can kind of, does that make sense? The protection rose is a little taxed, a little tired. We didn't kind of like let it go quite quickly enough. And the other piece is that there is a strong cord there, and like we just basically unscrew that sucker and fill back in, right? So go through the earth cosmic circuits and then fill back in. Golden sun, fill back in, right? Take that stuff back, because that's not yours. There was another part of your question. I'm sorry, I've forgotten it. That kind of answer it? Yeah, work with the protection rose is a great tool. And then I don't think I really talked about this when I talked about cords and wax, but often with the cord, it is like, it's like a screw. I mean, it like has this energetic nature that's like into different layers of us. And it is something we have to kind of like consciously unravel, right? So especially really deep-seated cords can be kind of a lot of different layers of work to kind of really fill in and let them go. But do it. I mean, just do an auric scan, you know, where you're feeling, so when you're running your microcosmic orbit, but then you do a scan, sometimes you'll feel like, oh, this doesn't feel tight right here. There might even feel like a draft. Sometimes I'll feel like a draft where it's like, there's no windows open in here, you know? And this is just a place where you just fill back in. No judgment. Don't know where it came from. Don't need to. Just fill back in. Mm-hmm. Because really, when we are full of ourselves in the most beautiful and positive way, we are operating from our soul. We are operating from our highest self. We are not operating from ego. All of us has an ego, and that's a whole nother conversation, but we are operating from a much more kind of beautiful, full place, the place of love. So, does that help? Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, cool. I think we went over time. Sorry. I'm sure everyone's exhausted. But usually after doing this work, you're kind of like, oh, supercharged right now. Yeah.
Exactly. This should have been my 9 a.m. class. What are you talking about?
I know, right?
And gosh, what a treat to thank you so much for coming and being willing to share with us.
My pleasure. Truly.
These great, amazing tools and techniques. And there's so much more. I mean, I have a million questions I could.
I know the conversation has not stopped here, but this is a good toe in the water because these are really powerful tools. They really are. And again, if we can all just kind of own ourselves, own our brilliance, then we don't have to play small. We don't have to contract and leak energy where we don't need it.
Such a beautiful way of trusting, just really sitting in that big trusting.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you all very much for being here with me. It was such an honor, truly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Oh, so you can find Anna at her website, which is moonstoneacupuncture.com. And she is available in Poulsbo and also Bainbridge Island. If you want to see her in person someday, possibly.
I know.
Otherwise, she's available for online offerings. And then next week, I am bringing on Lynn Morrison. She is a senior Hakomi trainer. She's a certified Hakomi therapist and teacher. And she also, someone's in the waiting room. How interesting. She also co-founded the Seattle Education Network. Hi, Abby. Welcome back.
Hey.
Welcome back. We're just closing. I'm just saying that next week, Lynn Morrison, she's a senior Hakomi trainer. She's coming on to do a mindfulness practice in using the place of feeling stuck as a great opening, a great spiritual opening. So we are in for another great experience next week. So it has been so wonderful seeing you all Wednesday nights. It has really helped me in this time, and it's been wonderful. Like Anna, what you've given us tonight has been so powerful. And I feel really inspired to learn more. And I feel inspired, Abby, I loved your question about what's the practice? How do you maintain this ongoing integrity, this aura integrity? So yeah, thank you for inspiring us all to come from our highest places.
Cool. My pleasure. Truly. I mean, you were all doing the practice. I could see you all just like light up. It was so beautiful. So I'm so thrilled to be here. So thank you so much. Yeah. Sending you all love. Amusements, all the amusements.
That's just great. That's just great. Off Donna Martin's Delight last week.
Right.
I just live for delightment, not enlightenment. That was great.
So good.
Good night, everyone.
Good
See you next
night.
Wednesday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you later.